All right. Hello, everyone. It's November 5th, 2020. This is the weekly dev meeting for Backdrop CMS. Let's do a quick round of introductions for those present. I'm Nate Lampton. I'm core committer, and we've had some exciting progress on Tugboat pull request sandboxes this week that I'll be happy to report. Let's go to Gregory. Can you give us a quick update on yourself?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Greg. I'm usually in Australia, but now joining from Greece. Interested in anything related to Backdrop and Backdrop Core. Just joining to see what's the status and get things going for the next minor release in January. Passing on to Justin.
I'm Justin. I'm in Denver, Colorado, and just help out small infrastructure things here and there.
And Tim?
I am not muted, so I didn't have to go through that. I'm Tim Erickson up at St. Paul Tim, up in Deerwood, Minnesota. Yep, there's a few deer out there today. Deer hunting starts tomorrow, so things get exciting in Deerwood during deer hunting. Everybody stays at home. We got more reasons to quarantine ourselves now. Anyway, sorry about that. I totally lost my thought. The big thing I think I'm working on right now is the telemetry initiative, but also got a few other things going. We're trying to build a distribution, maybe the first official distribution for Backdrop around events. Although whether or not it turns out to be a distribution is up for grabs. But contact me if you're interested in that. That's all. Bye.
Thanks, Tim. So our contrib project updates for this week. We've had 4 new contrib modules released this past week. Those include the EVA module, Entity Views Attach module, language icons, dismiss, and registration modules. Thanks to Alan Mells, BW Panda, HerbDuel, and Hosef for making those new modules. Let's see, we'll move right on into the current progress report on the project, starting with 117. The current bug fix release, 117.2, will be the next bug fix release. Just 2 issues to discuss today. One of them is just an issue that you can't place blocks into a layout that pull fields from the current user. So if you try to pull out like the user's, I don't know, bio field or something like that you've added to their account, you can't do that for the current user. You can do it for any hard-coded user or on a user profile page, but not for the current one. And the issue 2398 is simply to fix that bug. It seems like the alternative approach that we've discussed seems to be acceptable. And so there is a working pull request, but there's a suggested new approach that seems to be going forward that is a lower impact change that fixes exactly that problem without trying to touch other parts of the broader like global user account or loading the user account on every single page load.
That ticket is RTBC now. Should we put it back to needs work then?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea because it's RTBC, the current approach, like, that would work, but there are repercussions to it that we did collect more feedback. It looks like both BW Panda and Brad Bulger both say if that new approach will work, then that would be good. I will go ahead. Or would you do that, Gregory?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it after the meeting because I don't just want to switch the thing. I want to put a comment as well.
Post a comment.
So I'll do it. Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Tugboat QA for pull request sandboxes, issue 4351. This is something that we've been working out for a little while now. That's we're considering switching our sandboxes when we make a pull request to switching from ZenCI, our current provider, over to Tugboat. And so we now have that set up for evaluation and all new pull requests. I think that means that all new pull requests are currently getting 2 sandboxes, one on Tugboat and one on ZenCI. And so that will help us with our evaluation. Big shout out to BW Panda, who did all of the work in setting up what it was necessary inside of the core repository, configuring the Tugboat account on the Tugboat side, and raising the request to get our Tugboat account promoted. We did reach out to the Tugboat QA organization or company, and they fronted us another like maximum tier account before you get into enterprise plans, which gives us 40 gigabytes of available space. And right now, all new sandboxes are just being spun up on every pull request. In the future, we probably will want to refine the configuration a little bit to perhaps put an expiration time on sandboxes, like pretty generous. We could probably go like as long as 6 months right now without it being a problem. And then if you needed to regenerate a sandbox, you might close and reopen it, and that would regenerate a new sandbox. And I think that would be relatively low impact and also keep us underneath that 40 gigabyte limit. Currently, if we were to have a sandbox on every one of our open 500 pull requests, we would exceed our limit. But by being a little bit more judicious with our who gets a sandbox requirements, I think we'll be able to fit within that 40 gig limit for at least several years, it seems, at our current trajectory.
Yeah, I would like to add that tested it, and the Tugboat sandboxes are spun up equally fast as the previous sandboxes that we had. Just the difference is, yeah, it's like it takes a few seconds, like maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds, they're up. The only difference is that if you revisit the sandbox after some days, it idles. So it takes a couple of seconds, maybe 5 seconds to spin up again. But that's not a big issue.
Since I haven't actually seen one of the sandboxes in action since Peter set it up, do you have to run through the installer, or is it already installed like it is?
No, it's already installed like it was. So
and the user account to log in, is it like now always the same, like username and password, or is there a comment like there was previously?
So it's admin. So like before, and the password is automatically like randomized. Something like a little bit more, maybe 8 characters instead of 6, something like that, but still randomized. One thing that might be inaccurate from what you said, but I'm not entirely sure, is that we don't have 2 sandboxes. I think that only the Tugboat sandboxes are being spun up for new pull requests. I'll double check now and tell you. But the old ones, they still have the ZenCI sandboxes. Some of them might be broken because like the very old ones, but yeah, just bear with me. Yes, so I closed my pull request for one of the issues, and I see that we have just the Tugboat sandbox. Yeah, I didn't see Backdrop CI spin up another one.
Okay, we might check with Peter. I mean, I can look at the organization settings too. I bet that he may have disabled the webhooks to send out to ZenCI. It is confusing to have 2 different options, so I don't think that is a bad call on his part if he did make that change.
I didn't see any issues with the new Dragobot, the Tugboat sandboxes, so we're equally ready to switch. Like from an end tester standpoint, it's the same. So
great. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, big thanks again, Peter, for doing all of the work and setting that up. That's very exciting. It also kind of proceeds us down. Like we also have other opportunities. I think we have some issues. I don't have them pulled up in the agenda this week, but for things like PHP syntax checking and other automated testing that we could move to GitHub Actions as being like an available, free, unlimited processing solution for us. And now that it's built into GitHub and so widely available and free, there's a lot of good reasons why we might pursue that as well. So that would kind of give us more direct control over the way that all of our CI processes work. And that was the big appeal for Tugboat, is that we had more access and configuration to controlling the way that it works. And in particular, doing things like upgrading PHP versions, or if we get automated testing, like things that are infrastructure specific, like this issue about MySQL 8 support, we could potentially have an infrastructure that we could say, just give me MySQL 8 and run the tests against it. So more flexibility is what we're after here. And it seems like, tools are evolving, and we're trying to just keep up with using the best tools that are available to us. So 118 is the next minor version of Backdrop. It'll be released January 15th, 2021. Now that it's November, it always seems like every time the calendar rolls over, it seems ever so much closer than it was the day before. MySQL 8 support is an issue that we definitely are going to get into 118. The issue 4238 has a pull request that has been merged into the 1.x version, so it is in 118 already. The actual question is should we merge that into 117 from 117.2? So far, since that issue has been merged, we haven't had any additional feedback saying one way or the other that there have been any problems or confirmations that it's working. But prior to merging, we had 3 or 4 different people all come in and say that the new approach was working great. So still undetermined, if we will pull that into 117.2 or not. It might be good for us if we do decide to put it into 117.2 to get that out prior to being forced into another security release when Drupal makes security updates. It might not be a good move of us to put a potentially risky update into also a security update, because that forces people to upgrade, and if things go wrong, then they don't have many options to both be secure and have their site still work. So anyway, just thinking, rambling a little bit. Next up is WebP support. WebP is a new image format that replaces JPEGs. The issue is 4509. Indigo Zella is the advocate for it. That pull request is out there. It has tests. It's currently in a state of needs review. I was looking into WebPs recently, just non sequitur. WebPs are cool. They're like JPEGs, but they support transparency. So you get the options of lossy quality images like photographs, but you also can add transparency to them like pings. So it's kind of a best of both worlds. WebP also supports lossless format, unlike JPEG. So you can have a ping-like image, a lossless one, or you can have a JPEG-like image that is like slightly compromising file size for image quality, but also supports transparency. Very cool. All right, next up is Upgrade UI, issue 4345. This is an issue that Jen Lampton is advocating for. I think that she's pursuing something as a contrib module, but I don't think there are any updates on this particular issue. Next up is an exposed file name filter for the media library dialog, issue 3293. Lauren is the advocate for this. Still in a state that needs some help. There's no pull request. He's got some questions that could use some assistance.
Yeah, so he just popped in a few minutes ago in our chat requesting some attention because he has 2 specific things that he needs feedback for. So it's the last comment in that issue, and it points to specific comments. One is so it's the image view includes a views exposed form parent element, which in the wizarding is not present. So I don't know what the question is there. How to implement it, I guess. Okay, so both these questions, just I don't think that there's something that we could answer in this meeting. Maybe we need some attention after this one. There's just 2 specific comments that he needs feedback for.
All right. That's fine. We can move on. Next up is adding a setting to menu blocks for changing the breakpoint at which the mobile navigation becomes activated. The issue is 4663. BW Panda is the advocate for this. Thanks to Indigo Zealot and Herbduel for reviewing. There's some commentary in there. We talked extensively about overriding CSS and changing CSS safely in the UX meeting prior to this. So if you're interested in that discussion, there's an extensive video on on us debating merits of various approaches. However, well, I guess one of the things that also kind of came out of that is like, what is our current policy regarding CSS changes? Because this issue makes CSS changes. However, the authors of the issue think that the changes are made in a backwards compatible manner that doesn't affect existing sites. And so does that make it so that this change can be implemented without also addressing the 4167 issue of changing CSS and core safely as a general problem? I think that discussion is kind of still ongoing inside of that issue. I'm not sure if weighing in anything here is valuable, but Tim, yes?
Well, I have a question that you might be able, the broader context question that might be helpful, which is, my understanding is that what this issue is doing, which would differ it from the other case, is that it's basically uploading or overriding CSS only if you turn this feature on. So it would only affect it if you change that. And my question is, do we do that in other places? Is that already a practice? I would assume that's something we're already doing, that it's not uncommon for features to add CSS or to override CSS based on a selection. Is that true or not?
Yep, I think that's true. Like the revamping of color module, for example, might be a good use case where it's like color module continued to do what it was doing previously, but it also got like substantially reworked in the CSS that it outputs. But existing sites were unaffected because until you change the color module settings, your CSS file has already been saved. And so it makes it so that if you upgrade your site, there's no changes whatsoever that have happened to your site until you turn on the new feature or use the new functionality. And that's when the new CSS appears. And so our precedent for this is that this would probably be totally fine because it's something that you have to turn on in order for any changes to be applied.
And the fact that it's not, I mean, the fact that it's adding CSS when you turn it on, that I would assume is also not unusual. Is other features, do they sometimes have a like their own style sheet that might only be active when that feature is turned on? Besides color module, of course.
This kind of thing that an option turns on additional CSS or applies additional CSS isn't that common, but I think that a module has dedicated pages that need specific CSS or like adds a new field element. And of course, the field element requires CSS to output its input or output its display, and it makes new additional CSS files. That's very common.
Okay. Thanks. That was my question.
So the issue of that one is that currently, I don't think that it actually needs work. I think that, hang on, my agenda might not be fully updated. It says it needs more feedback currently, but I think that it actually has a pull request that is working.
I think so too, yeah. I think it's really close to being finalized. I think the main issue right now is this discussion about whether or not it changes CSS in a way that conflicts with our policy. So.
The ambiguous policy, which is also the problem. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Next up, Tim, is the issue that you're the advocate for. Excuse me, changing the name of the full HTML text format to raw HTML 4499. Any updates this week?
No updates. So.
All right, that's totally fine. On to the next issue, which is adding a link subtoken for user tokens 4584. Gregory, you're the advocate for this. Do you want to?
So It's finally RTBC. The thing that was pending for a week or two was to rename a final thing, just instead of login name, saying username, so that we're consistent across the UI. And it's finally over. As soon as it's committed, I can advocate for another thing. Excited.
Yay! Almost time to declare victory, right?
Yes.
It's RTBC. Everybody's happy with it. We
Yeah,
did
it's a small
start
change,
solving
actually.
tangential problems, but
No,
but
it's
all
good to clean
solved
things
now.
up. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, that one's RTBC. We could move that in at any time now.
Yeah.
I think being RTBC, does that let you advocate for
Advocate
another thing
for
already?
another.
Yeah, great.
It's the next one is the merging of the update pages. So
Which is great.
finally. Yeah.
Lastly, the current issues that we have in the 118 milestone is a backdrop port of advanced caching, adding cache tags and more granular control over the MaxAge header. Issue is 4127. Josef is the advocate for this one and is the one pushing it forward. He seems there's no update for this week, but last we've heard he's been running into some problems, but he's also making some progress. So he's attempting to work from the 777 port of 888's cache tags and then work from there. I expect that there'll probably be lots of interesting problems from there, but there's definitely room for us to make incremental improvements that might not be 100% the same solution that Drupal pursued, but could still give us additional flexibility. So
Yeah, I'm excited about this feature if it gets in 118, and I don't have an immediate use for it. But the thing is, and we have many issues that are tagged as D8, sort of like parity, feature parity. But this one is one that keeps being brought up very often as a selling point when people are choosing D8 over backdrop. So yeah, it would be great to have that in core and say, one less reason to have people have doubts. Really cool.
Okay, and that's it for the 118 issues. We also have our initiatives led by Tim and Luke currently. Luke is not present in this meeting, so we'll just get an update from Tim, if any, on the telemetry initiative. Muting, unmuting. Here we go.
Trying to remember whether I'm muted or unmuted. Not much of an update, although small progress. I think primarily the state we're at with the telemetry issue is testing. And if anyone else is able to help with testing that and providing some feedback on what Nate has already done, that would be really helpful. I personally am trying to get there. It does require, unfortunately, we can't just do it in sandboxes. You'll have to spin up a local version of backdropcms.org, right?
No, not a local version of backdropcms.org. You can, the testing instructions that I have, you can set up one site that actually reports to itself, which is a little bit silly, but you also could set up two sites if you so wanted. But for the sake of simplicity, a site that reports to itself is probably the easiest thing because you only need one backdrop install.
Okay. Well, that makes it
really.
That makes it a lot easier because I do that all the time. I was under the impression I had to, and I didn't, that's my fault. I didn't look close enough at your instructions. I was under the impression it would have to be a copy of backdropcms.org, a dev version. And I needed to do that for other reasons anyways. So that's where I spent my time last weekend getting backdropcms.org working locally and trying to integrate it with City CRM, thinking it would also help me with this issue, but maybe it doesn't. My goal is to do some testing on that, and I should be able to do that this weekend.
Yeah, if we wanted to help ease the testing for some people, we could tentatively install the project equivalent, the project telemetry module onto backdropcms.org. It's fairly simple. If we can get approval on that, we could tentatively put it on backdropcms.org and have it start collecting data, and then you would only have to test the client portion of things. However, in order to see the results, you'd have to be an administrator on backdropcms.org. And so that might be a better way for us to proceed for those interested, because I think the people that are active, like such as yourself, are also administrators on backdropcms.org. But yeah, my initial approach was that, you know, this should be available to anyone who's interested, not only those who are administrators. But perhaps going that route, just because it's purely less technical, and if someone was interested in testing, then we could simply, you know, grant them permissions to use the new capabilities.
So the other
Does
thing,
it? Sorry, go ahead.
the other thing that I'm trying to do is get backdropcms.org working with CiviCRM. And I was hoping to do that locally, but locally I've been using Lando and I'm having problems with I'm having problems with doing Lando within CiviCRM locally. Whereas I was able to easily connect Lando to, or easily connect CiviCRM to Backdrop on a server. Well, actually, I think I was able to do that locally as well. Anyways, the point I'm getting into is if I put up is there any reasons I can't or shouldn't put up a backdropcms.org just sandbox site on my dev server if I like HT password it, so nobody can just stumble into it and experiment with it? And if I did that, then could we also use that for testing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can use any destination server. That would be even better if we had like
Remote.
per environment sandboxes for backdropcms.org, we could point at that, and that would really be preferable. So you setting something like that up would be great.
Sure.
The Backdrop CMS locals that you pull down, they are sanitized thanks to the work that Justin has done. So there already shouldn't be any concerns about leaking hashed passwords, for example, or email addresses, because those things are cleaned up.
Could we spin up two pull requests, one to act as a server, the sandbox 4 would act as a server, and then the other one would push data to it? Only with the project, right?
Interesting. It would be a bit hacky because you'd have to open pull requests that didn't actually change anything. And then you would need to, on that sandbox, use Project Installer to install from a zip file because there's not an official release, but it would work. Yeah.
I mean, allowing people to test the actual thing on the pull request. So
and then
tie the pull request to an active.
Yeah, and then because Tugboat sandboxes also go to sleep, you'd also need to make sure they're woken up before the two servers start talking to each other. There's a lot of things that could potentially make that non-ideal.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay, well, I might go ahead and spin up my own dev version of backdropcms.org on a server that I could then give other people access to for testing purposes. If that's helpful, we might, I don't know if there's any, is there a reason we don't have sort of a dev version of backdropcms.org already on a server?
You would need to be cautious with the who you give access to, or who you give admin access to, right?
Yes.
Because they would be able to see other settings that we have, configuration things that we have.
I'm not suggesting that we freely make admin access to anybody, but that I could easily give it to anybody that wanted it, you know, on a case basis.
The usernames are safe because they're sanitized. Like we don't give out like email accounts and so on and so forth. But maybe there's security settings that we have or configuration things that we shouldn't be exposing to everyone.
Yeah, which right now the only way to get access to those things is from the live server. You can still set up a sandbox that doesn't have like API keys to Tugboat, for example, or API keys to Zen, or API keys to our mail provider. All of those things are, the keys for all of them are stored only on backdropcms.org on the actual server. So your local just won't have those capabilities unless you set up something else, which is fine. It's totally
fine. Let's, on a related topic, I'd like Nate's opinion on this, Gregory. You weighed in. It's what you were just saying. It looked, BW Panda was suggesting that he update the Lando script for for setting up a local version of Backdrop CMS so that it automatically pulled down the sanitized database. And I think Gregory was saying that that's a security issue, because if anybody off the internet were able to pull down this Lando script and set up a local version of backdropcms.org, even if the data is sanitized, they would be getting more access than we'd want them to have. And that makes sense to me. I just wanted to see
Yeah,
what other people thought about that.
I'd probably concur with that. It might be nice if the Lando script could be updated in a way that says, just says, if you want to download the database, then run this command, but it would also prompt you for a password, or you'd have to enter one. Then
Okay.
that would be, we could still facilitate it being
Right.
easier and automatic through scripting, and that would be great. But we probably can't just make it automatic with no password whatsoever. Even though it's sanitized, there's
Right.
just sensitive things that could be on there, unpublished security releases, that sort of thing.
Sure. That makes sense. Okay. I like that idea. That's all.
Okay. Let's see. That's it for initiative updates.
Before we move on, I just wanted to point out that there's like 9 issues in the RTBC queue, and 2 of them are feature requests, but the rest of them are bug fixes. Just wanted to say, do we have any rough idea for a new bug fix release? I know there's no rush, there's no critical issue that we have at the moment, but were we planning for any?
I do not have any plans for it, but like I said, if we want to get that MySQL 8 fix out, it would be better to do it in a release that wasn't a security release. And so looks like 117.2 has 16 closed issues already. So that is kind of a substantial number if you add that on top of the how many
RTBC.
issues? Eight issues
So there's-
that are RTBC.
I see 9 RTBC, 2 of them are for a feature request, so they go in 118, so 7 should be for 117 too.
Yep. I would be in favor of that. Like, let's go ahead and get a minor release out once we have these things all collected.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to facilitate that, Gregory, we could go ahead and make a release issue for it for 117.2, and then possibly give it a date. I would be comfortable with as soon as this weekend, if that would work.
I was just going to volunteer. If we schedule it for this weekend, I would be able to carve out some time to help.
Yep, same here.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and say Sunday?
Sunday, yeah.
November 8th.
It's deer hunting, so I have to stay inside.
Because you're a deer.
Or we have to wear bright orange, right? If you go outside,
you shouldn't go around wearing your reindeer hats, though.
You do not want to do that
your
in this area.
Christmas decoration.
And we're going into lockdown, so yeah. I wasn't going out anyway, so.
Okay. Well, generally, we'll plan on that. We can work out the details of scheduling. Generally, kind of afternoonish seems to work well for me.
So afternoonish probably means 11:12 Pacific time for you, right? So we don't need an exact time, but in case anybody's watching this video and they want to be available, roughly noonish Pacific time would be a good time to check into Zulip, huh?
Correct. Yeah. Okay.
I would like to bring up an issue. It's issue 4666, and it's a documentation and coding standards clarification issue.
What was the number?
So 4666. So we have the rule about not exceeding 80 character limits, and we have some exceptions, and all that is clear. What is not clear is if the 80 character limit is try to fit as many as until 80, or anyone can wrap at any time below 80 characters. Is that clear? So
no, it's not clear. I didn't get that.
So some sections have of inline comments have less than 80 characters, but they wrap much sooner than 80 characters, whereas the next line could fit in the previous line. So I don't know what, some explanations were that the character limit was set to 70 or 60 before, and that's remnant of the past. Some other people feel that the creators of those comments felt that it was more readable, so they've done it as such. So we need to clarify if we're trying to fit as many characters as possible up to 80, or we can wrap at any time.
Okay.
'Cause
seems
I used to-
pedantic, but
Well, that's the reason why I'm bringing it up, because I was making pull request reviews, keeping that in mind for years now. And then there was a pull request that Inigazella did, and then I was too pedantic, causing frustration. So should I stop?
I see.
That's what I'm asking.
Got it.
Yeah, because the D.org, the respective D.org coding standards, which we actually sort of like, we have a copy of, we didn't change to that. They don't clarify that, and it's kind of vague. There's what you call it, subject to interpretation. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I'll put my voice in that I don't think wrapping early is a big deal if you think it makes it more readable. But yeah, I think that would be great to clarify that in our coding standards and say, you know, if for purposes of readability, shorter line breakpoint is more readable, then that could be acceptable, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Is Nate's word enough? And I'm fine with it. Just to be clear, is that enough to like put?
I wasn't asking Nate specifically. I just need feedback, and we need to make a decision.
Right. I guess what I'm getting at is when is the decision official? Is it now official, or do we need to do anything else? Or
well, it's official if we reach a consensus in the issue,
Consensus.
or if the PMC votes on it. And
okay.
BW Panda asked if there should be a PMC thing, but it might not come to that if we agree on that just generally, and then we'll update the coding standards.
Yeah, and it's not only the coding standards, it's as well the intention to add the linting. So should linting be complaining or not?
Yeah, once we have linting.
So BW Panda just joined the conversation. If he wants to speak up, he can, but he doesn't have to.
Hey, Peter.
Hello. I just came to see if I was leading the meeting or not. See if there's anything I needed to be asked about or talk about.
I didn't catch that.
I just came to see if there's anything anyone wanted to ask me about or talk about or anything quickly before the end.
We were talking earlier about the PR sandboxes. Did we have any questions for Peter about that, or did we solve all that? Oh, okay.
No, just a big thank you.
Hopefully it's all working now.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
I got one question for Nate about that.
Sure.
So people have been saying that with the new tugboat ones, because of the limited space we have, that they should be more selective as to which ones are made into like spun up sort of thing. But how do we determine that? Because as far as I know, it's just automatic. As every pull request is going to get one from now on.
Yeah, I was thinking that we put a long lifetime on them and just automatically expire them. So give them like 6 months or something like that until 6 months, if that becomes a problem that we have too many sandboxes. But right now we have 500 pull requests, which would exceed our limit. But some of those are 2-3 years old. And so I think if we put a limit on them of 6 months, they automatically tear down after that time. And then if we need a new one, the people can close and reopen the pull request. And that'll make a new sandbox that lasts for another 6 months, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and if it becomes a problem, we reduce that time to like 3 months or whatever.
Yep, exactly. And we'll kind of just basically keep reducing the time until it actually becomes like problematic that we need to increase the size of the plan on the tugboat side. From their perspective, the current plan, an additional 40 gigabyte plan, which is the largest non-enterprise plan, is basically cost free for them because it's on their cloud infrastructure. But going any larger than that currently means that they would have set up dedicated clusters of servers, which incur like a more substantial cost for them. But so far, even then, they have implied that that could be acceptable if the marketing exchange was good for them, and so they're actually open to larger sizes yet. But at this point, like for us just getting started, and we're not really even officially discontinuing ZenCI like entirely. So I think at this point we don't need to rush asking Tugboat for a size larger than we really need.
Yeah, even if it comes to that, I think we already have a section where we sort of like provide kudos for agencies, companies or people that provide us services. And the Drupal Association started putting some small ads in d.org to provide revenue. We could do the same for Tugboat because they're providing the sandboxes for the demos and now for pull requests. So maybe we could make an exception and have a small ad on our front page just as a thank you.
Okay.
Did you get any idea? Did you get an idea with the discussion that you had with them, Nate? If that would be enough for them to provide us an enterprise thingy, would that be enough, or would they want something more?
Well, I don't even think that there's necessarily. I don't even think that it's a matter of us providing more changes right now. I think that it's really perhaps us being courteous and not asking for more than we need. You know, like I think that we could actually push and get a larger enterprise plan. However, I think it's really not justifiable for us to be asking for
At the
something
moment.
we don't need at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. Cool, understandable. Thanks.
I got to drop off, but you guys keep talking. Bye.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
So yeah,
Okay.
there's nothing else that I can see unless anyone else wants to bring anything else up.
No, I don't have anything else, I don't think. Justin, anything from you? Okay. Well, thanks for jumping in and hanging out with us. Peter, thanks for being here just for a couple of minutes. Unless there's anything else, I think we can end. Okay. Well, thanks everybody out there. We're going to shut
Bye.
down the broadcast. I'll see you guys all